Hi, Brynn. Hope you're doing okay today. Let's take a look at these questions one at a time. So the first one has a number of different categories of courses that you need to choose courses from in order to make an application for admission to college. And you need one math course, you need English 30-1, and then it just says that you need at least one science class. So let's start off by finding out how many different ways you could pick the courses if you only had one science class to choose. So the number of different math courses that you can choose from would be 2, and we're choosing 1. So the number of ways that you can choose the math courses is 2, choose 1, multiplied by the number of ways to choose the science. Well, if you only are going to choose one of them, that would be 3, choose 1, multiplied by the number of ways to choose the English. Well, there's only one and you're choosing it. And if you take a look at what we've got chosen so far, you've chosen your math and your English, that's 2 courses, and you've only chosen 1 science. And that means that you have only 3 courses that you've selected so far, and that means that of the 5 optional courses, you need 2 more. So if you were to calculate what this is the number of ways that you can select your math, select the English, select 1 science class, and 2 others. But, so I'm just going to put in brackets here actually, this is 1 science course. But you could have your math course that you're selecting out of 2 choices, multiplied by 3, choose 2. So you could have a situation where you have 2 science classes that you're going to pick to put on the application, multiplied by the 1, choose 1 for the English. But now when you look at filling up all of the courses to give a total of 5 courses, you've got your math that you've selected, you've got your English that you've selected, and you've chosen 2 science classes. So that's a total of 4 courses you've selected so far. So of the remaining 5 options, you only need to select 1. So this is going to be the number of ways to choose your math, choose your English, and choose 2 science classes plus 1 option to bring the total to 5. So this is 2 sciences. There's a third possibility, and it's that you're going to choose your math, the 1 math course out of 2, but you're going to choose all 3 science courses out of 3. You're going to choose 1, choose 1 would be your English, but now you don't need to choose any other courses. So what we have is a total of 5 courses selected so far. If you wanted to be kind of clinical about it, you could say 5, choose 0 for the options. 5, choose 0, by the way, is going to give you 1. So I'm not going to worry about calculating this. You can put it into your calculator. What you are going to have to do is calculate this, also calculate this, and calculate this. And because it's the first or the second or the third, what you are going to have to do is add these numbers together. You're going to have to take 2, choose 1, 3, choose 1, 1, choose 1, 5, choose 2, plus 2, choose 1, 3, choose 2, 1, choose 1, 5, choose 1, plus 2, choose 1, 3, choose 3, 1, choose 1, 5, choose 0. By the way, I didn't quite finish something here. This third option, of course, is if you're having all 3 sciences being used on the application. And that's going to give you the answer. So you can work that out on your calculator and verify that that would be the answer. The next question is a binomial theorem question, and you have 2x squared plus m over y raised to the 3. You're told that one of the terms in the expansion will be 54x squared over y squared. Now, I'm going to write out what we know. In this binomial expansion, x is actually 2x squared. Y is m over y. N is equal to the exponent on the binomial, which is 3, and we have a term. We don't know which term this is, but 54x squared over y squared is a term. And I'm going to put is the blank term, because it turns out the only way that we can figure out the answer to this question, which is what's the value of m inside of the binomial, is if we know which term number 54x squared over y squared is. So for example, is 54x squared over y squared the first term in the expansion? Or is it the second term? Or is it the third term? Or is it the fourth term? And I'm only asking up to the fourth term because if n is 3, what this n equals 3 is telling you is you are going to have 4 terms. And I think the quickest way to answer this question, which term number is that 54x squared over y squared, is to start expanding this thing out. And I'm just going to go to a different page to do this. We have 2x squared plus m over y, quantity cubed. So I know that the first term would be 3 choose 0. It would contain a 2x squared raised to the 3, and it would contain an m over y raised to the 0. And Brynn, all I really care about here is that when I look at the x's, this term is going to have x to the 6. So the first term will contain x to the 6. When I take a look at the problem, which we've boiled down to which term number is 54x squared over y squared, 54x squared over y squared has x squared. It does not have x to the 6, which is what the first term has. So if I continue in this fashion, that's probably the most efficient way for me to find out which term number that 54x squared over y squared is. My second term would be 3 choose 1. It would contain a 2x squared squared, and it would contain an m over y to the 1. And when I look at this is my eyeball, I can see that we're going to have x to the 4. So we are after x squared. We are not after x to the 6. We are not after x to the 4. We are after x squared. So I continue, and I see that the next term is 3 choose 2 multiplied by 2x squared to the 1 multiplied by m over y to the 2. And now I can see that this term is in fact going to give me x squared, and that's what we're after. So what I know is that it's the third term that gives me that 54x squared over y squared. And in fact, we're pretty much very, very close to getting an answer to the question, because the third term we've just written out is this. It's 3 choose 2 times 2x squared raised to the 1 times m over y raised to the 2. But that third term has to give 54x squared over y squared. So what I can do here is take that third term, 54x squared over y squared, and set it equal to what the third term is from the binomial theorem formula. The third term has a key number of 2, and that means that our m over y will be raised to the 2, and our x will be raised to an exponent that when we add to the key number takes us to 3. And you'll notice that what I just wrote down there is what I had written down and highlighted over here. So what I'm doing is I'm setting 54x squared over y squared, which we know is the term, equal to 3 choose 2 times 2x squared times m over y quantity squared, which we know is the term. And we're going to simplify this. If I simplify the right-hand side, I'm going to take the 3 choose 2 And you can calculate 3 choose 2 on your calculator, but 3 choose 2 is going to give you 3. And I'm going to multiply that 3 by 2 raised to the 1 and get 6. So my constants in this thing, my constants give me 6. Well, that's not entirely true because I also have for my constants, and this is the heart of the problem, I also have m squared. So I need to include the m squared in what I write as well. And then my variables, I can see by looking at my x's, I have x squared to the 1, which is x squared. And then I have over y quantity squared, so that's over y squared. And essentially what we have now is an equation where I can cancel the x squared with the x squared, the y squared with the y squared, and be left with 54 equals 6m squared. So I can divide both sides by 6, and I believe that gives me 9 equals m squared. Now, technically speaking, I seem to recall that there's a problem with the answer to this question. You have to take the square root of both sides, and when you introduce a square root, you have to say plus or minus. So m is equal to plus or minus 3. And I believe in the question, the answer is simply 3. What the question should probably say is that somewhere in the question, it should tell you that m is greater than 0. It should be saying the binomial is 2x squared plus m over y quantity cubed, comma, where m is greater than 0. Anyway, what we end up with down here is the square root of 9, and that gives us m equals 3. The next question, numerical response 6, gives a security code that you're told consists of 2 odd digits followed by 4 even digits. So I'm going to make a list here of even digits and odd digits. Even digits are 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Odd are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So there are 5 even digits and there are 5 odd digits. If we calculate how many different security codes there are, if we're going to be looking at 2 odd digits and 4 even digits, I'm going to use the fundamental counting principle to do this. I'm not going to use combination notation here. You could if you wanted to. I'm simply going to say we need an even, we need an odd, and 4 even. And what we're going to have is 5 odds to choose from, 5 odds to choose from, 5 even, 5 even, 5 even, 5 even. And that's going to give us 5 raised to the power of 6. And I'm really not too interested right now in what that number is. Now, in the new system, it's slightly different. In the new system, you can have any 2 even digits. So I'll highlight the new system in blue. The new system has 2 even digits followed by any 3 digits. So now what we are looking at is the following in terms of the fundamental counting principle. You have to have even, and then any digits, and there's only 3 of them this time. So these last 3 digits can be odd or even. So the fundamental counting principle says we're going to take 5, which is the number of even, multiplied by 5, which is the number of even, multiplied by 10, multiplied by 10, multiplied by 10. This is going to give you 25,000. The question was, how many additional codes would be possible under the new system? So what you are going to have to do is take 25,000 and subtract whatever 5 raised to the 6 is. And that's going to give you the answer. It looks like you had a good head start on this, and I think I see where the mistake was made, and we'll get to it in a second. You're absolutely right in saying for this question, number 33, that if you want at least 5 chemists on a 6-person committee, you can have 5 chemists and 1 non-chemist, or you can have 6 and 0 non-chemists. So when you wrote the 5 chemists and the 1 other, you wrote 28, choose 1, because you've added up the number of people who are not chemists, and there are 28, and you need 1 of them, and you've multiplied that by 10, choose 5, and that's correct. And then you have plus, and you said, well, if there are 0 others, that's 28, choose 0. And I think this is where the mistake was made, although I can't quite see what you've got written. It looks as though what you wrote here was 6, choose 6. But what you should be writing is 10, choose 6. We need to choose 6 chemists out of the 10 chemists. So 28, choose 1 is the 1 non-chemist, multiplied by 10, choose 5, which are the 5 chemists, plus 28, choose 0, which is the 0 non-chemists, multiplied by 10, choose 6. 10, choose 6 for the 6 chemists, because we're choosing 6 out of 10. And when you calculate that, that will give you the answer. I just think that you put a 6, choose 6 at the end, and you should have had 10, choose 6. And one last question. If you were here, we could have a discussion about why you added 1 at the end. I think you added 1 probably because you were saying that the printer was optional. So you thought, well, I'll handle that by adding 1. But what you want to do here is say, and we can use combinations if you like. I'm just going to use the fundamental counting principle. If you're always selecting 1 item out of a category, which you are in the CPU category, the monitor category, and the printer category, you don't need to use combination notation. But my thinking here is you have 3 choices for the CPU. That's the tower, or the main computer. You have 4 choices for the monitor. And since there are 2 printers, but you have the choice of adding 1, if you like, you actually have 3 choices for what to do with the printers. You can have printer A, you can have printer B, or you can have no printer. And I think you added the 1 on at the end to kind of take that into account. It just doesn't work that way, because what you end up doing is taking this whole thing and adding 1, and that's like saying that whole set of options or 1 other option. And it just doesn't work that way. So whenever you have a choice of having something or not, you just increase the number of items in the category. Anyway, if we multiply these together, it looks like I'm getting 36. So I believe 36 will be the correct answer. And I guess that's it. So the same thing as always. I'm going to be kind of unavailable for the next few hours and for most of the day tomorrow. But if you have any further questions or you need clarification with these, send me an email. If I can't get back to you right away with an explanation this weekend, I'll send you a reply back just letting you know when you can expect some help. So I hope that made sense, Brynn. Have a great rest of the day, and if I don't talk to you, have a wonderful weekend. Take care.